I mean, hey, at least you did 20 right.
Oh yeah, but when I'm pulling the fire handles from the jump seat, people look back on this and be like, "Wow, what happened here?"
That went south.
Wayne 2-1, waiting for alpha release.
Instead of that.
Well, we wouldn't be the first or the last Mooney to do that.
Hello, everybody. On today's Read a Speed podcast, we have my friend Eli here, who I've known a considerable amount of years. Eli is a pilot, and the title says a 20-year-old Keen Air pilot. We've done some good shenanigans over the years, and is that coming loose on us?
That's kind of coming out.
Yeah, we're our mounting options here are less than ideal, but we are right now at 13,750 feet, flying over the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. We are westbound, heading to Durango for some business, and Eli joined me on this adventure. We're in a 1963 Mooney M20C, which is one of my favorites. He's also a Mooney guy. He's got a 75 M20F, which you've done some considerable amount of adventure flying in that. Caribbean trip, you're in talks of a North Atlantic crossing to Greenland or Iceland. I mean, so this podcast is based on having a lot of experience and a lot of ratings in a very short amount of time. And just to show what the capability of is as a pilot at a very young age. And he's in a position that I wish I was at when I was 20. I was an idiot when I was 20. I was trying to make cars go faster, and it was really getting me nowhere. And he's at 20 years old and officially a Keen Air pilot at age 19. I mean, the guy's flying multi-engine turbines, and what? You got 1,900 hours now?
Yep.
At 20 years old, he's not even legal to drink a beer yet he's got more hours than the majority of these guys out here. And that, to me, is a very cool aspect in aviation. And so, with that being said, we got Eli here, and well, Eli, thanks for coming on this flight.
Happy to be here.
Trying not to kill you on this flight. And for me, when did you start flying? I mean, your first solo, how old were you?
So it would have been when I was probably just turned 17. Or maybe I was still 16, but yeah, it would have been just right in that early range there, late 16, early 17.
And now you're talking. Let's just hear some of the list of ratings that you have.
Well, yeah, I have all my instrument commercial, and then multi glider, and then same for the instructor ratings for all those. So CFII, MEI, and CFIG as well.
That's insane. You have more ratings than I do fingers. And for now, your main gig is you're popping skydivers out of a Keen Air, and you're also flying a Twin Otter.
Yep.
Which, for some, what was the transitional curve going from, a Cessna 172 to a 1,100 horse Keen Air?
It's one of those things where, like, the Keen Air, you got turbine engines, and turbine engines are very different, right? Yeah. Your start procedures are different. Your, the things you have to watch. You're not watching mixture, right? You're watching, your ITTs and your GGs, and there's just different gauges and stuff to be watching, different stuff to adjust. You can't firewall the throttle like you can on any, non-turbo piston, right? Any piston, you can just jam the throttle in. Keen Air, you will just over-torque the engine if you do that. There's definitely some stuff that's different and, things to learn, but I think it's just like anything. If you sit there and you know the risks, you know what to watch for, you can learn it. And I talked with one of my buddies about it, who flies, he flies for a cargo operation. He flies Beech 99s, but he did his multi with me, and we both kind of talking about both of us kind of agree that the Baron is a harder plane to fly than the small turbine airplane.
And King Air.
Just because the Baron, you got to miss with the mixture. You don't have auto feather. You don't have things to help you. So in many ways, I'm not saying it's easier, but I'm just saying that the transition isn't that bad. Once you know what you need to watch for, what you need to do, it's not the end of the world. It's just like any other airplane.
And for you, how old were you when you became a certified flight instructor?
It would have been 18. 18
and you're a CFI. And, now, once again, we go back to what the heck was I doing at 18? I was trying to figure out what party to go to on a Friday night, and you were out instructing people how to fly. And was your demographic of students much older than you, obviously?
Yeah, there wasn't a single student I had that was younger than me. But I don't know. I really felt like I was well respected by my students. I know sometimes young CFIs kind of talk about.
Oh yeah,
they feel like they can't get the respect.
Yeah.
But I never felt like my students, you got to meet them on their level. You got to be able to talk to them about the plane and teach them. And at the same time, they have to kind of be okay with the fact that you're young. And but as long as you can prove to them that they'll learn from you and prove to them things, I felt like they were very. None of my students that I point to, like, God, he was such a terrible person, or she didn't really, treat me with respect. She made me feel like she didn't want me to be there. All my students were very good in that respect. So, most every one of my students was older than me, but it never really created a problem.
And have you had a scenario with a student that was kind of a Code Brown moment where you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean,
the joys of a CFI lifestyle.
There's been some stuff. At one point, we popped a tire, although that was not really the student's fault. It was just kind of, the tire wasn't really that, we pre-flighted it, and, it was a flight school tire for sure, but it wasn't really like it was showing tread, or showing, cord or anything like that, and I wasn't really that worried about it, and we just kind of, I think, got unlucky and popped it. And luckily, I was flying while it happened. I was demonstrating a landing, and so she did one landing. I think it popped on that landing, although it wasn't that bad. And then by the time I landed, it was pretty well
toasted.
Yeah, but I kept it on the runway. It wasn't a big deal, and we had them come out and help us get it off, and it was fixed, and we flew it back, back to the home airport.
And I must say, this view, just so you have perspective, that we're going through here, a podcast at, 12,800 feet, couldn't get any cooler in a, 60-year-old booty. Now, you got your CFI, and, your father was kind of a motivational or influential person to get you into flying, would you say?
Yeah, and, it's not the same as a lot of guys. A lot of people talk about, my dad was an airline pilot or whatever. My dad's an engineer, and, he quit. He got his ratings back when he was young, and then he quit for, 30 years. And he got back into it almost kind of right at the same time I was starting training.
Yeah.
And it's been a great thing. I fly with my dad. We flew down to the Caribbean together. We did all this different stuff. But it's not really it doesn't feel like the airline thing of he already knows everything. He knows all these people. He helps me get jobs, or he even knows how to do any of it. He's always been a help, and that he helped with the money. He helped with, being there for me. And he's been a very good dad, but he's never really been my instructor. He's never really been any kind of thing like that. And I appreciate that, because doesn't feel like it's my dad's thing. It doesn't feel like he's forcing me to be a pilot. It feels like, hey, if you want to be a pilot, my dad will support me. And that's kind of something I really appreciate, I guess, about our relationship, is it's, he helped get me into it, but it's not what you normally think of the airline pilot kind of dad.
Now, you guys just recently did a massive adventure in your Mooney to the Caribbean from Colorado.
Yep.
And how many nautical miles and how long did it take? And what was one of your favorite moments of that?
It was 2,500 each way, so almost
miles.
5,000 nautical round trip.
Wow.
And, it's probably about 40 hours of flying round trip, but it was really cool because we got to see, just a lot of stuff. you go from Colorado. We left Colorado pretty, later in the day because I had to work in the morning.
Yeah.
So I flew the King Air, and then I go take off in the Mooney, and we land out in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, which is just this beat-to-shit town in Arkansas. And I mean, it's nice. The people there were relatively nice. We went, it was real late, so we got some Domino's or whatever, and then we turned and we keep going because we had a storm kind of slowly pushing out behind us, so we didn't really want to spend the night. Or we might have gotten stuck there. So we continued going on, and we ended up in Leland, Florida or something, one of those airports down there, up in northern Florida. And we ended up spending the night there, and it was a short night. We only got about 2 or 3 hours of sleep because we had to kind of force our way out so far that first day. And then we pushed down to kind of Miami, and we just spent the night in Miami. And then the next day, we kind of headed out over to the Caribbean stuff. But it was just a really cool experience to kind of go from, to see this entire different part of the country, and then a completely entire different part of the country.
In your own plane.
Yeah, and one to the next to the next. And on the way back, we stopped by. We have family in Louisiana. We visited Lake Charles in Louisiana. And it's just kind of one of those things. There's so many different cool things that we got to see,
for you were talking earlier about like coming into St. Martin, and what did they want to charge you to land there and keep your plane there for the day?
Well, so St. Martin, we ended up not going because they wanted to charge us like $500 just to stay there for 24 hours, right?
Didn't you say the BVI was even worse?
Yeah, BVI was like $1,100, $1,200.
That's ridiculous.
But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things, especially doing it with my dad. It's kind of one of those experiences.
Oh, it's unforgettable. Like, doing a father-son adventure like that. I did one with my dad, bring an open cockpit plane home, and that to me was the pinnacle of flying adventures, probably my entire lifetime, I would say. And you guys are talking about, adding fuel bladder to this Mooney and doing a North Atlantic crossing to, Greenland or Iceland?
Yeah, no, and I think it'd be cool. My dad's... He retired a couple of years ago, about a year ago now, and it's like he's got all this time on his hands now, and then, but he's still young enough that he can actually do stuff. I mean, he's 56, 57.
Oh, yeah.
So he's still young enough that he can be doing this kind of, long distance flying, and doesn't have really any outstanding health problems. It'd be great to do some stuff like that, some stuff they really remember when he's older. And the other one is when I get out of college here, I don't need to have a job immediately. I don't need to be working immediately. Could be kind of nice to do do something fun together.
You were doing right now, your main study is aerospace engineering.
Yep.
And would you say trying to balance aerospace engineering or college in general with trying to add all these ratings and flying, is that a big piece of juggle? And would you warn people on their younger students on their prospective reasoning to juggle both aviation, getting licenses, and college degree?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I'd say is it's perspective. You got to understand that it's going to kind of suck. It's not going to be the most fun thing you've ever done with your life, right? Nobody's going to be over the moon. Oh my God, yes, I just love, working and doing shit all the time, and it's going to be kind of rough, right? I mean, I suffered hard in Calc 3. That was one of my real just kind of tough classes. Not only was it hard, but I was training skydiving, to be a skydive pilot, and then they wanted us, at the end of that semester, really, they wanted us to be skydiving for, 5-7 hours a day over the weekend, or even as much as 10 hours a day on certain days. And so I just ended up not studying for one of my Calc 3 final hardly at all because I didn't have any time. And it was fine, I did okay, but, I didn't do I got a C+ in the class, and that compared to what I'm used to, it's just not great. And that's kind of the thing, is you got to set your expectations that stuff like that's going to happen, because there's going to be times where your commitments just happen to be huge, and you're going to have to deal with the fact that, hey, I'm not going to do that well in this class, or, I'm going to have to skip out on flying that other people without college commitments would get to do.
I would get that. And, would you say, geez, you're not even... this just cracks me up. You're at 1,900 hours. You have all these ratings. You're a certified flight instructor. You're flying a King Air on the weekends, pushing skydivers out, and you can't even legally have a beer yet. And for you're setting yourself up for life and a really, really promising career. What is your end goal as far as, are you wanting to do airlines, or what's the type of flying you'd like to do, like bush flying? Fully want to do, whether it's airlines, medevac seems to be appealing to you. And I know when we were on final, we were talking about flying a Twin Otter down south to Antarctica.
Yep.
I mean, what's that about?
It'd be cool. There's a company in Canada that flies Twin Otters on skis down in Antarctica and, lands and do survey work and stuff like that. And then, if I wanted to stay in Colorado, we were just talking to some medevac guys there in Durango, right? And that'd be an amazing opportunity. They pay really well, and they fly cool planes, and you feel like you're doing something good. I mean, I feel like no matter what, the end goal is going to be the airlines, just because that's where the stability is, that's where the pay is. But I don't want to be at the airlines for 46 years of my life or whatever, 21 all the way to 67 years old.
That's tough.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be nice to go out, do something that I can enjoy, do something that won't make me have a midlife crisis. And then when the time comes, we're going to go to the airlines because, that's what I will want to do, right? When I have kids or when I, have a family, airlines are the place to be. But right now, enjoy myself when I don't have kids and when I don't have a family. And that's kind of my thought process on it. And I don't know exactly what that job is going to be, whether it's medevac or whether it's Twin Otters on skis or whether it's something I haven't heard of yet. But I want it to be something. I want it to be something kind of worth doing, something enjoyable that I can do for quite a few years and then, move on to the airlines. And especially if you can tell them, oh yeah, I went to Antarctica, or oh, I was flying medevac all this time.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, the airline, I feel like, you can kind of leapfrog the regionals where you're just kind of slugging it out. Instead, you can do something you want to do. It might take a little longer than the regionals, but something you want to do, something you enjoy doing, and you can still probably get into a legacy carrier at the end of the day. So.
No, and I think you're on the right track. Especially, I mean, you got so much time ahead of you, and I don't know. It's tough because I think a lot of, pilots your age or aspiring pilots your age, they just want to go straight to the airlines, which is good. But I think also if you balance it out and have a multitude, like you did skydiving, you did CFI, and you did instruction, and then now you're getting back into glider instruction, doing that, and then you have this Baskin-Robbins 31 flavors of ratings and work and experience. I think not only does that look good, but then at least you got experience like what you wanted. And where you're like, oh, I love that, or I absolutely dreaded that. And you do that so early on in your age, then you have all this room to actually go pursue what you really like doing. Where, I'm an old fart now. And you're like, well, I think I might like this, but it's pushing it from the age boundary wise.
Well, and that's the hope. I mean, not to say that you're that old. I feel like you still could do a lot of stuff. But I definitely feel like, being as young as I am, there's so much pressure because of, the airlines are just crazy right now. They're hiring like crazy, and it's starting to slow down, but that's the thing. Everyone wants to get there before it slows down. Everyone wants to be there, so it's all, get to your 1500. And, I appreciate that, but being in college, I got another year before I'm able to go to the airlines, and being 20, I got another year before I'm able to go to the airlines. I got to be 21, I got to graduate, right? So it's one of those things where I don't have that pressure. I know that I'm waiting a year no matter what. So I need to enjoy that year. And then a year from now, I don't think the airlines are going to be hiring like they are now.
I don't think so.
And, the benefits aren't going to be as good as they are now.
Yep. It does this wane.
Yeah, and so that's the point, go fly something cool, go do something I enjoy, and build up a really good resume so that no matter what, I'll make it in the airlines eventually, right? Eventually they will want me. But especially, it's going to do that another wave. You're going to have another huge hiring boom probably 10, 15 years down the line. And that's the time where I can go jump into an airline, jump into a legacy carrier. But I think it'll work out perfectly because that's also the time where I'm probably going to be, having kids, thinking about future stuff like that. And, maybe medevac's not the right option then. Definitely Antarctica is not the right option if I'm having kids.
I think that's smart.
So that's where it's like, right now I want to really take advantage of, I'm young, I don't have a lot of commitment. Go out and do something that I really enjoy and really want to do. And then whenever the hiring boom comes back, or just whenever I get to enough hours to finally be accepted, even when they're not in the upswing.
Yes.
Then that's what I'll do. But I don't necessarily feel that pressure because I know that I'm going to have to wait a year anyway. I know I'm probably going to miss the hiring boom anyway. And even then, I don't want to have some midlife crisis. I see a lot of older pilots that have huge seniority numbers, but I don't know. There's not necessarily that same love for the flying that there maybe once was. Because how can you love? I mean, how can you really, truly? How can you love the flying after that long?
46 years in the same seat.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not perfect. So that's where I kind of stand. And I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a young way to look at it as well. Is just that feeling that like I need to. I think there may be a little bit of a feeling that like I need to be a. Guess I need to do something important with my life. A lot of people have that feeling when they're young, but.
I mean, did you think you're at like 15 or 16? You're like, I'm going to be a CFI by 18.
No, I thought I was going to be an engineer.
Really?
Yeah. No, I got my private, and then it was my first year of college. When I was a freshman in college, I did my instrument commercial CFI. So instrument was September, commercial was October, and CFI was March.
Wow.
And then I was like, oh, well, I guess I have this, so that summer I went out and got a CFI job. But I came into college as a private pilot thinking like, oh, this will just be something fun to kind of diddle around with. And then I found that, I had a lot of time on my hands just because I wasn't really partying. I wasn't really, I didn't have like a big social group or anything. And, I had kind of been dealing with some social stuff from my high school thing.
Yep.
And I was like, I just want to do something like,
I've been there.
I kind of just knocked out a bunch of ratings, and I was like, well, I mean, I can make something out of this, right? And then that summer, I probably did 300 or 400 hours of instruction, and then I was like, wow, I mean, I'm in this great spot. And then, the skydive guy, chance of luck, I talked to the guy, and he was like, yeah, you should put an application here because you sound like a great candidate. He knows that I'm going to be at CU for a couple more years, so I could do their contract and all that. And so I was like, yeah, I'll put in an application, and I kind of got on. But that's the thing, it was never like, oh, that's going to be my goal. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. Kind of just like these things kind of fell in my lap, and it was mostly just because I didn't really burn out on the flying, so I was willing to just keep working, keep flying more and more and more. And
how many hours did you fly last year?
Last year is about, I don't know the exact, year to year, but, for flight last 12 months would have been, almost 900.
900 hours. That's bananas. And you got, like we were talking earlier about your Greenland trip that you want to do with your father and the Mooney.
Yep.
Absolutely do that. I think you've got the flying portion down. You got this. You had a folder that showed your life. Yeah, one of those folders says aviation. I think you got that folder pretty well figured out so far.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, that's my current goal. Is like that was the big thing that I was so focused on, was just like, God, I love flying. I love planes. Love flying new planes, tow planes, gliders. All these different things. Like, I love just getting into new stuff. And now it kind of feels like I got to wait a little while. I kind of done what I really wanted to do. Like, skydiving and King Airs and stuff is really the most I can do when I don't have weekdays available. Like, all I can really do on is weekends, right? And now it feels like I'm kind of at that plateau. And so I've been, focusing on other parts of my life, whether it's, kind of getting more social stuff, or, even thinking about taking more classes that I enjoy. And then,
What's your goal for 21?
What do you mean?
The year that you can actually have a beer, what's your goal aviation-wise? Are you 2,500 hours, or what's...
Yeah, I want to hit 25. A big goal right now, just because it's right in front of my face, is medevac would be cool, right? Do something, and so 2,500 hours is what I need to go, to try and go somewhere like that.
And you need, 21 to do ATP?
Yep, 21 years old as well, for a lot of those places, so...
Yeah.
But if I turn 21 and I get 2,500 hours, I feel like a medevac place should just, someone will pick me up in that respect.
20 years old, man. You're...
But the point of it is that I'd only have to do about 600 hours this year to get there. And that's where it's kind of like, and that'd be a huge step down from my last year, right? So it's kind of like, I feel like I can kind of maybe take a break a little bit, do stuff like this that I really enjoy.
Life. Yeah.
Stuff that I really enjoy doing. And
like that mountain pass that we just went through, I don't remember, that was amazing.
Yeah, exactly. that's kind of the thing is like, let off the gas a little bit and really look around and be like, this is sick. And it's the same thing I've been doing at the skydiving place. There's a lot of people there that I really enjoy being around, and it's like, a lot of them are kind of, not necessarily deadbeats, but there's not a lot of job opportunity in skydiving, and they're just kind of doing it for fun, which means they're hard to, they're not going to help progress your career. And if that's the only thing you're focused on, the last pilot that flew there wouldn't talk to any of them because he's like, well, these guys just aren't that useful. But they're good people, and they're a ton of fun to talk to. Yeah. And at the end of the day, your entire life isn't about progressing your career, and that's where it's like, now that I've got myself in good standing, I'll enjoy myself for a little while until I need to grind again, until I really need to put in that work again. I don't need to just work for the sake of working. But
that's such a good mindset to have. Well, if you're wanting to get into flying and you're in the Colorado area, Eli is your guy. Teaches out of Erie, Colorado. Him and I are always up to shenanigans in the Moonies. If you want to go for a very scenic sightseeing tour in his Mooney, he's your guy.
And the real one is if you want to go gliding. I need to get some glider students.
He needs glider students. And if you're wanting to learn to fly gliders, Eli is your guy. I'll put his contact, including his social security number, all that info in the description. But seriously, he's a great friend, really good guy to fly with. And I think today I just really wanted to encompass, like, people, they always accomplish stuff later on in their life, but like this guy, he's really accomplishing a lot and some fairly difficult tasks at hand, and doing it very early on. And I think that's a commendable thing to review.
You're going to say all this, but I'll turn 21, become an alcoholic.
I mean, hey, at least you did 20 right.
Oh yeah, but when I'm pulling the fire handles from the jump seat, people will look back on this and be like, "Wow, what happened there?"
That went south. Well, thank you for watching, guys. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. We'll do more podcasts covering pilots and various other talks coming up. And like I said, you want to learn about how to fly a glider, this is your guy. So be sure to tune in for the next episode. Have a great evening.
Wayne 2-1, waiting for alpha release.